I feel really strong about our founding fathers and many of their beliefs. They didn't say anything about allowing a private banking cartel to create money from nothing. Our Congress decides that they want to go to Iraq. This is important. If you're familiar with world markets and monetary markets, you'll understand that the dollar has been tanking. Thank you once again for tuning into The Real Story. My name's Daniel Hapney, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a trip. What I want to do is introduce you to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ed Brown. Ed Brown had recently made the news, and I believe he was on Fox 25 and probably some nationwide shows. I know he was on some radio shows, but I thought he sounded like an interesting individual. And seeing how I like individuals, I thought we'd go and find out what the real story with Mr. Ed Brown is. So please, sit back in your seat. Enjoy this. This is part one of an interview with Mr. Ed Brown. We're on our way to meet Mr. Edward Brown, a person who thinks that, you know, maybe tyranny is taking over our country, that we should be awake, and that the rule of law is important, especially when it goes for individual freedoms and protecting, once again, those individuals' freedoms. So we decided to come to New Hampshire, the state where they tell you to live free or die. Mr. Edward Brown lives here in the state of New Hampshire, and I thought it'd be very good that you got to listen to Mr. Brown's story, because sometimes in the major media, you don't get the whole story. We're going to try to get the real story today. Here with Mr. Ed Brown. Hopefully we're going to learn things today and maybe get some information that we don't get off our regular media. You know, the whole idea of alternative media, that's what I'm trying to do here. Ed's got some real stories for you, and we'd like to learn a little bit more about what Ed's doing and what's happening to America that isn't always shown to us on our major networks. So once again, here we are in Plainfield, New Hampshire, so that we can bring you, the lovely people in Sharon, more information. Ed, thank you for having me over.
Good morning, sir. My pleasure.
I appreciate it. I kind of came with questions like, geez, to get a background from, you pretty much tell you about yourself, how you were raised, what your parents were like, what you learned, what got you to the point now where you're saying, as a man, I'm going to stand and I'm not going to fall and I'm not going to bend and I'm tired of bending and I'm tired of, giving up my freedoms.
Born in Boston, Roxbury slums. Abandoned mother by the time I was 5 with my other 4 siblings. Put on the state, considered state brats at the age of 6 for me. 2 older brother and sister, 2 younger sisters. Raised on a state Division of Child Guardianship out of Mass. Then having no parents, having no one really to direct us, we kind of did our own thing. So we learned for ourselves. Not having a father, I kind of picked John Wayne as my father growing up. And that was the example that I followed. From there, it's all just a lot of combination of history and job after job and trying things and self-educated. Did 1 semester, up to 1 semester in college, got sick of that, and that was philosophy, was the only semester that I took that I cared about. And then I stayed with philosophy after college. From there, different jobs, hairdressing, and 13 years with that, and exterminating in more recent years, until I retired from that about 10 years ago. But what really got me going and changed, I was always a reader, thanks to one of my foster parents. At the age of 14, she got me into reading, so I really got the love of reading. Of course, then I learned the little thing that reading breeds thought breeds intelligence, so it kind of stuck with me. But from reading on, years later, when I started seeing what was going on within our administrative part of government, especially up in more recent times, I think what triggered me finally was Waco. When I saw our own administrative government, our public servants, not our government, murder 83, 84 Christian people in Waco, Texas, stunned me. Couldn't believe that. So I started really reading on that subject matter. I haven't ever since. So I now have some 15 years of political contract law under my belt, plus researching all of the history of mankind back to 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, coming forward and going back again in the past 15 years. And what I found out during that time was absolutely astounding and frightening. We hit from 1776, we started studying year by year our form of government. My wife and I both were doing this. She's a dentist, she's a master herbalist, and she's also a paralegal. She's an overachiever. She studies and researches stuff like I do, but with me it was law this time. And when we found out what was going on in our administrative government, and we found a criminal element within our administrative area of government, we decided it was time to get it exposed. So we figured we had to set them up to cause damages, because you cannot just sue these people. They've given themselves so many protections.
Right. Usually you need their permission to sue
Correct.
them. Yeah.
So,
That's
but they
pretty
can
nice,
be
isn't it?
sued. They can be sued because they are a corporation. We realized that too. We found that out. But we needed to be attacked. All corporations can sue and be sued, even though they're all a fiction. So we needed to have them assault us personally.
And show cause and stuff.
Sure.
For a suit.
So the one way we found out we absolutely, no one in the 50 Union States are obligated to pay those income, so what they call income taxes. That's absolutely against the law for the Internal Revenue Service or the federal structure to charge a tax, because the federal government, so to speak, which we created, they can.
Which should be our servant.
They are our servant.
Yeah.
They can only tax what they create. Well, we created them. We can tax them, but they can't tax us.
That's interesting.
That's a fact of law. However, they have no jurisdiction outside of Washington, D.C., American Samoa, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Guam, or the courthouses within the states and military bases. That's the only jurisdiction they have.
Interesting.
That's also a fact of law. However, they seem to feel that they can come into any town, community, county that they wish to do so anytime they want to. Well, that's called assault from a foreign power, and the governor should have them immediately arrested and locked up. And the sheriff in each county should be doing the same thing, but they don't do that.
Because they should be the sovereign law of that land, right?
Well, the state is sovereign. Why do you think
Right.
we have our own governor, our own legislator, our legislation, our own Senate, our own Secretary of State? Because each state is a country unto itself that formed an alliance together, then created the United States corporate structure, the government, to take care of 19 specific things only. Somehow we let them go a little bit too far, and now they're dealing with hundreds of different things. They have no authority to do so.
And they were never empowered to do so.
Never,
Right.
never, never. But at any rate, to make a long story short, or shorter, it's looking.
Hey.
Well, what we found out is that in order for them for us to bring it to the attention of the public, was for us to be able to file charges against them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with the Un-American Activities Investigations Commission, an organization that was created. A Citizens Ad Hoc Committee had requested us to investigate this stuff, so we did, back some 12 years ago. And I'm also a United States Constitution Ranger of the Continental Congress of 1777, which is pre-Constitution, pre-Bill of Rights. We only operate under organic lawful law. We are truly sovereigns, and we are aware of that. The United States corporate structure and others working in collusion thereof, such as the governor's office and local town administrators and some county officials, know that what our positions are, because we have it all filed in county seat lawfully, would love to shut us up, i.e. this whole case and this whole thing came about. My wife and I talked about this long and hard with others, and that we were to be the scapegoats, so to speak, the ones to put our face forward, because we had something to lose. More and more people were losing their land, their freedoms, their lives even, like the people in Waco, and no one was doing anything about it. So it was put on us to make that move. So we started, like I said, about 10 years ago, actually 12 years ago, but we thought about 8 years ago was when they would have made the move against us, but it wasn't until 2 years ago that they finally made the move. And when they did, now we had them in law. Because once they assaulted us out of their jurisdiction, which was totally out of their jurisdiction, the income tax is not even an issue here. There is no such thing as an income tax against the people in the state. Does not exist, absolutely proof positive. And the statement there is always, show me the law, and I'll pay the tax. They can't show you the law. It doesn't exist. It absolutely doesn't exist.